In this video, we're going to be going over 4 key points that'll transform your passing game in Madden. If you've ever found yourself struggling passing the ball, this is a video for you. And just so you know, I'm not full of BS. I've been playing professional Madden for years now, where I've won tens of thousands of dollars, and I've been able to coach thousands of Madden players to be able to get better at John Madden football. And I can honestly say a big part of my success creating offenses has been my understanding of the passing grid, which is our first key point here. So what we're looking at right here is a picture of practice mode with no defense on the field. And this is that same picture, but we have the passing grid on it. Now, there's a couple of rules we need to understand with the passing grid before I break down exactly what this is. First and foremost, each one of these sections should only have one wide receiver in it at a time, unless 2 wide receivers are meshing, which should take no longer than about a second that they're both in the same section. Number 2, our routes must complement each other, meaning that you're going to want at least 2 wide receivers in adjacent sections at a time. This can be seen in very basic route combos like flood, like mesh, or in simple high-lows that we see in Madden and real football all the time. There's a total of 11 sections on the field, starting at the bottom with them all being in the short category. So from left to right, we have the short flat, the short seam, the short middle, the short seam again, and then the short flat once again. We're going to move up now to the intermediate flat, intermediate seam, intermediate middle, intermediate seam, intermediate flat. And at the very top, it's all one section, and we just call this one deep. The reason the top is only one section is literally because on any given pass play, unless you're calling a one-play touchdown or a big hitting bomb play, you should not have more than one route attacking this part of the field. What's neat here is that we can take every route combo that's ever been popular in Madden and show how it works perfectly on this grid. To show this, let's take a look at this play call from TNC Fancy, who's one of the best Madden players in the world in a game for $20,000. Where you see on the left side, we have a corner route that's going to attack the intermediate flat. This slant in the middle of the field is going to attack the shallow middle and then eventually work its way to that kind of intermediate flat on the right side. The streak's going to push every zone deep, attacking that deep part of the field. We have a post route that's going to attack the intermediate middle part of the field, and then a table route coming from the back in the backfield. It's going to attack that short flat. And you see when he snaps that ball, he actually has a few different options because of the setup, but he ends up taking the check down to quad father for a gain of 8 or so. Here in practice mode, I'm going to show you one of my favorite route concepts in every single Madden, regardless of what's going on. This is from PA Boot Over, and you'll see here we would attack numerous of the passing grid points with this hitch, flat, slant, and post, all getting proper spacing from one another. And where there's a mesh point between the slant and the post, it's only going to take about a second for them to cross. And you see we can hit this post between or just above the hitch, and there's plenty of spacing between everything here where the defenders can't defend more than one route at a single time. The fact of the matter though, even with the information I just shared with you, it's pretty much all useless if you don't understand the concept of proper formations in Madden. Consistently, formations like spread, doubles, Y trips, and numerous other more spread out sets are pretty much abandoned for sets like gun bunch tight end, gun tight, and gun bunch because of one thing: compression in Madden is better than spread sets, and this is why. Here we're in practice mode looking at gun and bunch tight end, and more specifically we're focusing on the outside left wide receiver. Now he is in a compressed state where he's only a few yards off the tackle, and he could be on a bunch of dangerous routes like a flat route right here. He could get audible into a corner route to attack that intermediate flat. He could attack the intermediate seam on a curl. He could be on a post route going across the entire field, a drag, or he could even get put on a streak. The reason this is important is that all of these routes are actual very legitimate threats that can attack across the board. Whereas when we get into a spread set, our outside wide receivers are at a huge disadvantage in the route tree. And while they could attack maybe the intermediate flat and the short flat, it's just tough for them, and they can't be expected to attack the middle of the field at all, or at least anything past the center, because it would take too long for them to travel that far. And in our slot wide receivers, you might as well just run compression because they're in the same area already. This is not to say that you could not run spread at a high level at all, but it's going to be a lot harder, and in terms of optimizing your success in Madden and setting yourself up to run the best possible offense, you will be making things a little bit more difficult for you if you're planning on passing a ton from a spread set. There is an argument, though, that the best formations are actually a combination of spread and compression, where we have things like trips tight end, where we're going to have a trip side that's very spread out, and then a tight end side that's compressed. The same idea applies to a slot offset, and then U trips, which has a trip side that's spread out with a slot wide receiver side on the ISO, which is going to do a really good job of using a lot of our slot concepts that we do for compression. Our third key point is highlighting that the way you attack man coverage and zone coverage is not necessarily the same. Against zone coverage, you can use both stationary and moving routes, and against Against man coverage, you really want to focus on only having moving routes as your primary receivers on any play. What is a stationary or a moving route? Basically, a stationary route is a route that does not have any cuts in it. So think about a curl where the receiver is just running straight and then turning around. A flat route would be another example of a stationary route, or even a streak could be considered a stationary route where obviously he is moving, but he's not making any cuts. A moving route would be something like a slant, a post, a drag, a corner route, just something that has some sort of cut on it, because that's gonna help you get separation from the cornerback and increase your chances of being able to beat man coverage. On the field here, this is one of my favorite zone beating concepts, and I really do love this route combo, but the issue is that we have 4 of our 5 eligible receivers on what I call stationary routes. We have 2 hitches. These won't move at all as soon as they make their hitch. And then we have a table route. This also is just gonna go straight to the sideline, not going to beat man coverage, and a flat route on the left isn't going to beat man coverage, obviously, as well. If we snap it against man, you'll kind of see that these receivers are all kind of bagged. They can't do much, and our post route was our only option. So instead, I'd like to find a way to add a couple of moving routes. Now, you don't need a bunch of moving routes on the field. Really, just 2 or 3 at a time would be most ideal. So something I would do would be something along the lines of this, where I like to use that post, and I like to put a slant on the field. I'll put my halfback on an out route now, and then we'll put a little flat on the left as well. We could put him on a streak just to get him going deep down the field. And just like that, we now have 3 different moving routes on the field, and 3 different receivers have a chance to get open against their man coverage. If we snap this ball, we'll see a slant get up wide open. We have our post route as well. And this just gives us options against man coverage. Big rule of thumb, man coverage, you want moving routes. Zone coverage, you use moving routes or stationary routes. All of this stuff we talked about gets super optimized when you do key point number 4, which is to master your plays. And more specifically, you want to master just a few plays. If you try doing 15, 20 different play calls throughout the course of a game, the fact of the matter is Madden quarters are typically 5 minutes long at most, and there's just not enough time to call all of these plays. And if you look towards the real NFL, while they do have a ton more play calls, they have a few things when things really matter that they fall back on, and it's their bread and butter. Typically, I like to have about 4 to 5 to 6 plays that I have totally mastered, and then maybe another 4 or so that are kind of more constraint plays that I can sprinkle in depending upon certain looks. Now, how do you master a play? Really simple. My favorite strategy is to, 1, figure out what play I want to master in practice mode, and then go into a game mode that I don't care if I win or lose in, go into the game, and then only call that play for an entire game. If I like it, I do it for another game. If I still like it, I do it for another game, and then I've sort of gotten close to mastering that play, and then I'll do it again for another play, repeat the cycle until I have 4, 5, 6 plays. Getting repetitions is huge. It helps you with timing. It helps you with muscle memory. It helps you not have to think so much. And if you don't want to have to worry about doing all this extra nerdy stuff, you just want to focus on mastering plays, my website, civil.gg, gives you pretty much everything you need, from high-level schemes, pro tips, one-on-one coaching, a community of Discord members who are very passionate about the game of John Madden football. My website is linked at the top of the description, and code CIVIL will get you 25% off. I truly believe it is a game changer for anybody trying to just start winning more games of John Madden football. And if you enjoyed this style of video, boys, let me know. I'll see you on the next one.